Hello YouTube, how are you? One thing I can say since the beginning of this is I am very, very, very happy that I have missed very few days on here. Whenever I have missed a day on here, it's been very deliberate. It has literally been because I have decided that I couldn't come on for the day and that I had to commit to something else just for that day and get back to it. It's been very, very crazy. Okay, there we go. Now I'm seeing my live videos. Once again. Once again. Okay. So today, I want to talk about destiny swaps. It had already come in my head for me to talk about this. So this is the topic of the day. And it came full circle for me. It's something I have to do. Give me one second. So, topic of the day. It's a hot topic right now. Well, I don't know if it's a hot topic everywhere. I've seen it come up a number of times. Destiny swapping or destiny or stealing people's destiny, stealing people's star, whatever have you, is something that Nigerians talk about all the time because it is something that happens way more frequently than people think. People literally will birth children and find out that their children have some particular calling on their life, and they will take their own children's callings. It's not uncommon. It's not something that I think maybe in North America people don't talk about it as much, but very common. It's a very, how would I say, what word, there's a word I'm thinking of that's not coming to mind. I don't want to say seductive, but maybe we could use that word. It's a seductive topic. Destiny swapping. Destiny swapping, or what I call destiny blocking or destiny delaying. It doesn't always have to be a swap. It can be a delay as well. So let me go through my notes, and then I'm going to go through the scripture. And it's funny because the scripture that came up today is called No Inheritance for Aaron. But I want to go through this part of things first, and then I'll go through that. So I say that gang stalking, and I say this all the time, gang stalking is an attempt to block spiritual ascensions. Gang stalking is, to me, a blanket term that describes a whole gamut of things. So gang stalking can look like paparazzi. I think paparazzi are gang stalkers to some degree. Gang stalking can look like what politicians go through. Gang stalking can be things like people looking into your past and making rumors. Anything that blocks you from the intended purpose of where you're supposed to go. So I always say gang stalking is simply an attempt to block spiritual ascensions. Destiny hunters, to me, are different than, say, somebody's in a family, they're a witch, they find out that you have some sort of blessing on your life and they want to take it away from you. That is different. That's a witch. A destiny hunter is somebody who literally spends a whole bunch of their time looking for people from whom to steal energetically. Now, some people might just steal a business. Some people it might be an idea. Some people, it might be a relationship. Who knows what it is? But there are people whose whole entire job, how they make money, is to steal the inheritances of people, to block people in life, to bind them, and then take their ideas. And they, I don't know if they sell them to other people or they simply implement them themselves, whichever, however it goes. So these people usually know who people are meant to be in life or what they're meant to be. And digging into people's life, doing divination on them, trying to find out their future, all of this. This is what they do in order to figure out who they're going to go after. Now, sometimes you don't even need that much divination. Maybe if people want to go into detail, they can do all of that. I think a lot of times you don't even need to. So there are people you can see very clearly that they have a bright future if they can apply themselves. And here's the thing. The destiny requires the application, the work. So where people get blocked and stuck is when they don't do the work. And all a person has to do to bind you or block you is stop you from doing the work. And they can delay you. I don't know if it's indefinitely, but they can definitely delay you, and then they can steal from you while they are delaying you. So these people see you, and I'm going to be very specific in this situation because I am here to do a job. I'm here to give a message. So I can tell you the practitioner in this situation, I call him John Garcia because that is who he is now. The practitioner in this situation has a rich destiny. Why? Because he has skills. He can hack. He's into crypto. He's into a lot of different things. He can build websites. He can do a lot of things. And you can literally, without knowing too much about him, you can look from the outside and you can see if this person were to apply themselves properly, this person can build something amazing. But instead, he's stuck in a position doing menial work. So gang stalking people, hacking small people who barely have anything going, trying to take from people, siphons people's energy and whatever. And in the meantime, he's not cultivating himself. This is an intelligent person. This is a person who doesn't make smart decisions a lot, but if they were in the right frame of mind with the right motivation, could do a lot. This is not something that you need divination to see. You can see it from the outside. And this is someone who, when they don't know something, is willing to go learn it, learn about the topic, try to master it. Very determined, but determined in the wrong way. So people meet people like this. They see your skills, they see your talents, they see your luck, because there are some people who are lucky, they are favored by spirit. They see your luck and they hold on for dear life. When people like that meet you very young, when they meet you at a vulnerable stage and you guys grow up together, it's like a trauma bond. There is like this energy of, well, we've been through so much together. And then that might push a person to stagnate in a situation probably longer than they should. And people will break themselves to keep people in this energy, because by keeping someone in this energy, this person doesn't ever stop, pull back and say, wait a minute, I can do better than this. Wait, I don't have to be here. And that's the point. That's always the point. People will do, I'm telling you, when it comes to latching onto people's destiny, people will do anything. People will go to any length. People will, I hate to say it, people will make themselves sick with things that are incurable to latch on. And part of having a destiny swap is the person who is sucking down your wealth, sucking down your inheritance, sucking down money through your labor, your unpaid labor, where you're not being paid your just due. Meaning, even if you're making 500,000 now, you should be making 500 million. You don't even know what your true potential is. They're latching on, they're feeding onto it. The people who do that in your situation, they know that they have to be a handler. And what they do is they surround you. And sometimes what happens is when people are vulnerable and they've gone through things very young in life, or they've gone through things and they don't have family, they don't have people to defend them, or perhaps they've been isolated, or perhaps they've been targeted, they will latch onto you and they will not let go for dear life. And then you'll have all these other co-handlers around you that continue to stagnate you in a place that doesn't make sense. They will hold on to you. They will do things that don't make sense to hold on to, because that is how rich your destiny is. This person keeps fighting for other people's destinies and doesn't see their own. Doesn't see that they should be taking out their energy from fighting for something else and build their own. It is in the application that you get your destiny. And they keep trying to block my third eye every time I say these things, because it's the truth. No one has ever come out and said this information before. It's the truth. You meet a family that perhaps they do this sort of thing. They harvest people's destinies and they've been latching onto yours. And you've been working for nothing and they're feeding off of it. And that's the truth. Shoot the messenger all you want, but that's the truth. So they will, listen, when people handle you, they'll have babies for you. They will marry you and have no love. One of the key signature things about one of these loveless destiny swapping marriages, people will get married to you and not care. They don't care if you have relationships with people. They don't care if you sleep around. They don't care if you self-sabotage. They don't care what you do, as long as you go to work. They go off and live their own life, have their own happiness, sleep with whoever they want, but they just need to make sure that you get back to work. And I've seen it up close. In this situation, they just want this person to get back to work. They don't care what they do. The only thing that they care about is do not have contact with anyone that can break you out of this cycle that you're in. And they don't care what it costs. In this situation, his chief handler is his wife, Melissa, and it is what it is. It's clear as day. And she will go to no end to keep him in place and keep him working in a menial capacity and make sure that he does not get himself out of this situation. Even though the situation is dying, it's dead, and it's done. There is no more gravy in it. Once a person begins to start healing, waking up, the old life is dying. There's nothing that can be done. You just have to accept that the situation is what it is. It's coming to an end. So when people look into your future, they will see things like wealth, stature, it could be fame, but it could also be spiritual authority. Sometimes, every single time, they try to keep you from rising into your true potential. So what they tried to do with me, in my experience in the past couple of weeks, I've been communicating with, however I want to. And one of the things that they said is, no, if you're having a vision, people can't see your vision and stuff like that. And it's like they blatantly lie to people. And you know for a fact, well, I can't say everybody knows for a fact, but I listen to certain things and I'm just like, oh my God, this is what they do to people. They lie. So they'll tell you, no, you got to do this. No, don't do that. And it's a blatant lie, because if you got the true information, it would be BS. Let me tell you, they've been trying to coach me and school me and find some handler to take a hold of me for a long time. So I'll be watching a video and it'll say something that's blatantly nonsense. And I mean really nonsense. And it'll be like, the person in the video, because they know that I watch this person, the person's trying to like groom me in some way and like, oh, did you know about this and did you know about that? And so they give you a little bit of great information, great advice, and they mix it in with a lot of toxicity, and that's what happens. And you develop this trauma bond handler type relationship with someone who is manipulating you and driving you astray and creating illusions around you. Anybody who is here to help you, they create an illusion to make you not trust that person. So you don't think clearly, you don't want to take information, you block yourself from the information. Anytime that you start considering that what is going to be said is going to be a fact, they try to put a wedge, put fighting, put misinformation in between that relationship so your eyes don't open, so you don't leave. Because what happens is if you wake up to your destiny, they lose everything that they stole. They fall flat on their ass. Nothing is left for them. And this is really the panic situation, because they're using this person for his ability to hack. They're making him do all the work. She only started showing up in here very recently, like this year. He's done all the work thus far. He's done all the work day and night. And she's just started coming here. She's letting him take the fall. I know the family would let him, not would, that's the plan, to let him take the fall if push came to shove. She doesn't want her name out here. But her name's already in the reports. Her family's name is already in the reports. You know, they're out there. They have the pictures of the whole family and all of that. It can't be stopped. He's not going to take the fall, at least not by himself. It is what it is. People will try to turn you into a killing machine. They'll try to turn you into their little worker. And if they have to do it by extension with gang stalking and handling through someone else, then they'll do that. They don't care. They'll do that. They control the person who's controlling you, and they give the instruction and the person does it, and so that's what they do. They manipulate through other people. So you do the work and they profit. What do you have of your own? Where's your mansion? Where's your Lamborghinis? Where's all your stuff? And they make you feel as if they're doing you a favor. They keep you subservient. They lie a lot, and they coach people in the wrong. And I mean, it's very obvious in this situation. The level of manipulation that happened here was insane. There was an insane level of manipulation where they created a whole facade. But it had to happen. I'll tell you, I constantly think about it. I'm like, it had to happen. Not only just for the experience of knowing, because I always used to say, how can they get all these good people to betray each other and whatnot? And it's because they manipulate people's intuition. But not just that, I realized to myself, I would have never, if not for this manipulation, I would have never opened up myself to talking to this person at all. If not for this manipulation, I would have never taken this person seriously, experienced them, experienced their energy, discerned what was real from what was not, ideas that I had about the situation that it wasn't real. Like, there was so much that had to happen in order for me to see, like, oh, I can tell now what's going on. So I had to go through it. It had to be, that experience had to happen regardless of what fallout. And it had to happen at a time where it wasn't going to have negative consequences. This could have happened at a time where the consequences would have been dire. So this had to happen. And I'm grateful that it happened. And in your situation, you're going to see that there are things that are happening or have happened that had to happen. You had to meet people, experience them for yourself, experience their energy for yourself, so that you can discern a lie from the truth. Because people lie, situations can look a certain way, but you feel what you feel, you know what you know, and you can sense what you sense. You can sense the authenticity in people's spirit or the lies in people's spirit. I've been told so many lies about my ex, but I keep going back to what I felt. I keep going back to, like, is this person a liar? Is this person this? Did they do this? Did they do that? And every single time I'm like, I just didn't feel it. So I just don't believe it. It's not because the circumstances were not skewed to look a certain way. And I mean things just like people literally trying to make it seem like this person's sleeping around, or trying to make it seem like they're doing things that they're not, and whatever. And you got to trust your gut and your discernment and what you feel. You got to trust what you feel. You got to trust things that don't make sense, because it's always subtle. Even in this experience in the last few weeks, it's like I sense something that, when it's at first it's subtle, and then the more you pay attention to it, you're like convinced every day. For a fact, you know when something is off, you know when something is wrong. You got to trust your gut and see what you see and know what you know. So the misinformation is meant to trap you, and no matter what happens, once you get on course to go through your lessons, you're going to learn your lessons. These lessons are supposed to be learned, not endured internally. You're not supposed to endure this eternally. You're not supposed to keep going through this cycle of abuse and being broken down eternally. Once your time comes for you to stop being on this cycle, on this roller coaster of abuse, you're supposed to get off. Enough. When you're going through a cycle of death and rebirth, and they put a death to your old life, at some point you're supposed to get off. You're not supposed to just go until you yourself die. You're supposed to get off and learn the lesson. After you learn your lessons, usually spirit comes and you get a message, and they give you a reminder. Hey, we don't do this. This is how this is supposed to go, and it's supposed to be gentle. I've gone through the same thing. If you're going through, let's say, demotivation, you're supposed to snap out of being demotivated at some point. If you've been in fear for a while, you're supposed to get strong at some point. So you're supposed to get strong one day. You're not supposed to stay eternally fighting a battle like this. And the amazing thing about spirit is that spirit moves through with their job regardless of if people want to get the point or not. It's not about that. Regardless of if people want to come to terms with how things are going or not, spirit evolves the situation irregardless, because nobody is going to stand between the Holy Spirit and the assignment. These lessons do not come easy, and they're not meant to be. I have gone through so many lessons on my path. It has been insane. These lessons are meant to be infuriating. They're meant to push you to the limit. They're meant to be aggravating. All of the above. These people are not trying to stop my messages just because they don't want me to say God loves people. They don't want me to wake John up. They don't like these lessons. They don't like these messages that I have to give. And the thing is it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter what they do at all. All of these attacks, every time I start these, the brother comes in here, he projects in here like we can't see him, like I don't know. People come in the space, they do a lot. They try to listen to meditations, block meditations, all of that. Like, it doesn't matter. He's not staying there. It doesn't matter. So anyway, God could have intervened in your situation, but the point is to go through the process. This is the energy of death, and I've said this before, and we tend to think death is just like unaliving people and people no longer being alive. No. The point is to put a death to your old life. That is why spirit allows all these horrible things to happen. They put a death to my old life. And a lot of awful things, awful experiences I've gone through. And everything was meant to learn. Sometimes my most recent lesson was how to defend myself spiritually. Like, I don't have to put up with a lot of things spiritually ever again. And that enables me to graduate in my situation and do my job. Every time I come on here and somebody starts sending energy at me and doing all of that stuff, every time it made it so difficult to do what I had to do all spring. It was horrifying. Coming on here was such taxing work. So you have to go through these experiences to get through and do the things that you have to do. You're meant to learn lessons. All of us are taking a different course. We are not on the same assignment. I've seen so many other people fall prey to what I went through, and I definitely know that it could have been worse. But Spirit allows you to go through your situation and evolve from your situation the way you're supposed to. Now, this was supposed to have a lot of different consequences. First of all, this was supposed to be like a betrayal to my ex. They didn't expect it to go the way that it went. So they were pissed off, gang stalked me harder because I was not supposed to. I was not supposed to be clear. I was not supposed to be transparent. I was not supposed to react in the way that I reacted. And so then they had to do damage control. It was out of control. It backfired. And then through everything, the way that they had to go, it's like I recognized the illusions. I recognized the things that had happened. This lady revealed some very personal, triggering information to me about her own husband in order to manipulate me to feel sympathy for him, in order to like try to talk to him, try to open up to him. And he was probably in on it as well. Who knows? I don't even know what these people are doing over there, but doing something like that, they enabled me to grow into my spirituality enough to not put up with people. Like literally, there's different kinds of spell work, but there's work that people can do where it feels like they're physically attacking you, for me to defend myself and not have to put up with any of that ever again. And then they want to make you feel guilty, like, oh, God doesn't want you fighting, and how can you come here and read the Bible, and then you're fighting people and trying to do all of this. But it's like God allowed that to happen and watched me do that. And right after that, God said, everything that you allow to happen is going to continue. Now you know. And God never stopped me, made me feel guilty, any of the above. Because Spirit knew I'd been enduring so much for so many years, people doing this stuff. It had to stop. How am I going to do what I have to do if people keep doing things to me? It is what it is. But this thing, and it's not just, this thing really pissed me off, to be honest with you. Like, of so much stuff, this really pissed me off. But so many people have gone through it. Almost everybody goes through this at some point when you're spiritual, where somebody tries to manipulate the voice of God in your life. And I realize it's a very common thing. It's not just myself. It's very common. And if it happened to me, it definitely happened to my ex too. They had to do damage control. So they had to try to make things look a certain way. And it just is what it is. We learn, we grow, we move, we see through the illusion. We recognize how God talks to us. We discern between the voice of people telepathically pretending to be someone else, and how does God communicate. And you got to come back to what you knew before and say to yourself, like, is this really God? Destiny swaps purposely try to frustrate your path in life. They purposely try to frustrate where you have to go. And I think the most attractive ones are the spiritual ones, the ones where you're meant to work with Spirit. Now, Spirit doesn't have to be a Christian God. Spirit doesn't have to be the God of the Bible to you. It's whoever your spirit guides are. And the more, the more, you know, we use words like high ranking and whatever, but the more, let's say, high ranking these guides are, it's like the more attractive it is to them. So one person I bring up as an example is India Ari, and India Ari is this artist that made songs like I'm Not the Average Girl in Your Video and I Am Not My Hair, and just empowering songs about, you know, not showing off your body and being confident in yourself as a woman and taking care of yourself and all of that. And she was one of the most nominated musicians, and never received one award. And I remember listening to her interview with Oprah, And her saying things like, my soul was drained, I was constantly frustrated, I was constantly led astray by people trying to take over my career, giving poor advice, always trying to put me in certain clothing, do certain things to me. And I just recognized she was in a destiny swap. And when she said certain things, it's like Oprah would try to steer her away from the things she was going to say. And I could see that it's almost like Oprah was being introduced as one of her handlers, because it's like, no, she knows what she knows. She should be allowed to say it. But it's like Oprah gives her some little platform, but at the same time, it's like Oprah steering her away from saying that this is a spiritual thing that's happened to you here. She used to talk about being so exhausted she couldn't even record. She was making materials that she couldn't even put out. She had to re-record an entire album. This is how destiny swapping works. They make you have to start and restart, like stop and restart and all of this stuff. Now, sometimes the stop and restart is on your path because it's like God is intending for that to happen, because it's not the right time to move forward because things aren't aligned yet. Maybe things are still being taken apart. You need to learn. You need to learn who you can trust, what you can trust, why you can trust it, etc. So you got to take your time with things. They pushed her essentially to run off from her calling. And then there was all this media backlash. And then she said she kept being pushed back into her work by her spirit guides and her ancestors. They kept pushing her to record and do work and put her messages out there, because that is their job. When you're working with your guides, that is what they're there for. They put something in your heart, and no matter what happens, you keep getting drawn to it. Her mission is to create empowering music, and no matter what, her destiny will be fulfilled. That's just how it works. It doesn't matter who tries to stop you. Your destiny gets fulfilled no matter what people do. My destiny is to come here and do this work and give my messages and open people's eyes. And I used to worry about how many followers, how many views, and all of that. And I just realized that's not what God's motivation is. That's not what is supposed to happen. Sometimes your destiny is literally one or two people at a time, however they get the message. And God just has a message to put out there. I don't worry about how people are going to find it. I don't worry about any of that. God's work will just not be stopped, and I've become content with that. Content with the way that it has to go. And we really have to look at it like that. I'm going to repeat. Spirit says whatever you allow will continue. And if you will continue to allow people to lie to you, to manipulate you, to play in your face, it's going to continue. If I would not allow someone, giving an example, to tackle me to the ground physically in person, then I'm definitely not going to allow that in the spirit anymore. And I say the same to everybody here. You've been given spiritual gifts, intuition, foresight, the ability to discern, the ability to make good decisions, the ability to see through illusions, and that is something that you have to do. You have to take the time and think for yourself, and it is what it is. These tools that we've been given allow us to fulfill our destiny and not be delayed on our path, and there is just nothing that we can do about it. As much as you might be stagnated and delayed, you're gonna get to the point eventually where it's like your spirit is nagging you so much that you're gonna pick up and you're gonna do what it is that you have to do. People cannot delay you forever. Do not hold yourself back in the gifts that you have. Hone and develop your gifts. Strengthen yourself. You have to motivate yourself, but in the right things. You don't need to motivate yourself to try to take from someone when yours is just as abundant, if maybe not more. We don't know what we're here for. Sometimes the strength you need is to pull yourself out of dark moods. Stop yourself from going too far. Stop yourself from getting in issues with karma or taking things to a point where you cannot reverse them. When you're working for God, it does not mean that you're perfect, and you don't have to be, because I tell you, God forgives all kinds of things. God understands. Listen, not only does God understand, God pushes you to be frustrated. God pushes you to your limit. God pushes you to be in certain situations. God pushes a rebirth in you. That's what it takes to get to a rebirth. The frustration, the distrust, the backing yourself, being backed into a corner, lashing out, all of those things. It's like God is even the one pushing it. Forget people saying, well, you did this or that. It's like you were in a triggering situation for a reason. It's what triggers you to have change. And sometimes after that situation, you have to sit back and say, well, wait, why did I do that? How did that happen? That's what is supposed to happen. This journey is way too hard to remain the same. You cannot remain the same. You are going to evolve. And sometimes it's like people might push you to evolve faster than it's possible. And people might want to wake up and see a 180-degree change right away. And that's not how it happens. Sometimes it's a drip. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it takes however long that it takes, years even. We don't know. My transformation took like 2+ years. I had things in my life were dying, things were blowing up, things were falling apart, all kinds of things were happening, but it didn't matter. That's the journey that God has you on. That's what you got to go through. My North Node is to fight for God. And part of that is to do my job, speak my word, but also to myself hone and develop things that are for me as well. I used to be scared to fight spiritually before. And I used to think that I would perhaps be in the wrong, because you kind of think to yourself, my South Node was very much about being very diplomatic, smoothing things over, never creating too much conflict. And Spirit had to teach me that this is actually why I'm here. A lot of the times I have to trigger people. It is what it is. I have to speak the truth. I've always been like that, someone who speaks the truth and who's very clear. And I do that because sometimes I have to be the voice of other people, and it's dirty work. I have to say things that other people cannot say or cannot say publicly. Melissa is a person that always looks like the good guy in public, and really she's the one behind the scenes always doing sketchy shit. She's the one behind the scenes manipulating a lot of things. And I'm not saying anybody over there, their hands are clean, their hands are dirty. But she's manipulative. She's the one that does a lot of stuff. And it just is what it is. It just is what it is. He knows that. He knows that. She's not even close to perfect. It is what it is. And she constantly ropes him back in, ties him back into things, casts illusions, make things look a certain way. But isn't that what gang stalking is? Isn't that what destiny swapping is? It's creating illusions. I'm not saying he's innocent or he had no hand. They're all guilty. They're all guilty of a lot. But the fact is, when it's time to get up and make a change, it's time to make a change. As far as triggering people, the truth triggers people. I mention people by name all the time. There's no hiding anything. You gotta come out and you gotta tell people things to their face, because that's how people grow. You gotta tell people the truth. People take it as a personal attack when you tell them the truth. You gotta repeat certain things to people over and over and over again until it sinks in. This is who you are. This is what you've done. It's in the clear sight of God. God sees it, therefore the rest of us will see it eventually as well. If God sees clearly what you've been doing and what you've been manipulating for so long, it's only a matter of time before everybody else, it's in full view. It is what it is. Sometimes you have to tell arrogant people the bitter truth and cause them to be enraged. And that's how you trigger people to self-reflect. It is what it is. And when you tell people the truth and you speak what you have to speak, let the truth do its job. Whatever has to fall apart, whatever has to happen as a result is just what has to happen. You need to stand up to your oppressors. That is the only way it is going to be possible to move forward with your life and do what it is that you have to do. If you can't do that, you will expend too much energy constantly defending yourself, trying to prove yourself, blocking rage, blocking impatience, begging God to be released, and overall just being upset because you have tools that you don't use or you're not listening to your better judgment. You can literally have the connections that you wanted, have the things that you wanted, have all of that, but people will convince you otherwise, and they will continue taking from you as long as you allow it. People in this connection or in this energy already had the connections, the bindings, the spirit marriages that they wanted, and they allowed somebody else to take it from them, and they need to come back to that thought all the time. You allowed someone to unbind you from something that now you desperately want to do again, and they continue to take from you and ruin opportunities for you and sabotage you, and you got to think about that. When you come from a place of empowerment, you can comfortably fulfill your purpose. I am very empowered to do my job and say the things that I have to do because I'm not worried about people cursing me. I'm not worried about people cursing my house, my children, any of the above, projecting in here, abusing me. I'm not worried about anything because I've already learned all those lessons. That is the training. That is the initiation. I cannot do this if I don't know anything. Spiritually, my knowledge needs to get up, but one of the things that I have to do is learn to see through illusions. Learn to see through the things that I have to see. You can't just experience peaks or just successes. You also need your valleys because that's where the lessons are. Your valleys are where you start learning falling on your face. That's where you learn. Making the mistake, walking through the mistake, being embarrassed by the mistake, seeing that you were taken advantage of, feeling like you're a fool. How comes I didn't see it before? That's how it works. God's purpose cannot be stolen because you need divine cooperation to walk this path. People can siphon from it and it can be delayed, but once you walk your path, you get it all back. You just gotta walk the path. You can't stay in that situation for forever. For me, I refuse to delay one more minute what I promised God that I would do. And that is to not just give my messages, not to just share God's word, to be, and it's not my messages, it's God's messages, to be a vessel from which God can utilize to cause the changes to happen in life that she wants to happen. So you need to ask yourself, what is your purpose? What's stopping you? What is your obstacle? What are you afraid of and why are you stagnating and why does God need you? Also, who would need your help? That's what your purpose is. My situation, they kept talking about divine masculine the whole time, and I thought it was my ex. I thought it was someone else, and the whole time they were talking about this person. And let me tell you, God has already put a death to our lives, to our old lives. We are not operating in the same capacity that we used to. God has already put a death to our old lives. So you're gonna walk this path. Unfortunately, not just one. We all walk the path, whether or not we want to, whether or not we feel like we're ready. Like your life is falling apart around you, and the last obstacle is going to be obliterated. And as much as they're gonna tempt the universe and fight the universe and do all this extra stuff, we don't know what changes are happening, but you know. You have to ignore all the frenzy and all the noise around you and listen to your intuition. You have to tackle your issues head on. I mean, cleaning up your emotional baggage and your emotional mess. Grow from your setbacks and learn spirit. Who are your spirit guides? How they communicate. It's every situation is going to have setbacks. It's going to have, like I said, valleys where you learn, where you fail, or you think you're failing, but you're not failing. It's just another detour. It's another lesson. No matter what, you got to be yourself. Don't fear who won't understand you. That's life. Everybody's different. Excuse me. One thing I've had to learn is that we are not Christians. And I personally work for death. People are going to call you a witch. People are going to call you satanic, demonic, Luciferian, all of that. And that's not how this works at all. Death comes to close out cycles. She comes to end things. She comes to add rebirth. And it is just what it is. And when death comes for you, you are the first one to die, the old you. And you go through your rebirth. And, you know, for me, I got rebirthed as a speaker, a missionary, a soldier on her behalf, a healer, but a daughter of death. And I didn't hate her for it. As a matter of fact, she loved me through this situation. She did some very genius work, I will say, and all I had to do was allow the changes externally and internally, follow guidance, and learn. It has been the most excruciating initiation I've ever gone through in my entire life. Like, I cannot even freaking believe some of the things I have had to endure here, but I had to learn. I'm a person who is used to things going swimmingly when I put my mind to it and I put my discipline to it. And trust me, I've been working tirelessly, learning, taking falls, getting back up. This is what this looks like. This pushes you to your limit. All of us are being initiated, and it doesn't matter. We are going through spiritual ascensions and initiations, whether we like it or not. She has pushed me so hard in this journey, and I'm just glad I rose to the challenge. But the way that the challenges were set up, I had no other choice. I had to rise to it. I had to trust myself to win. And I don't mean winning against other people. That is the misconception here. People think that we're winning against other people. We're in a battle. No, we're trying to get through our ascensions. We're fighting for our lives. It's not just myself. And it doesn't matter how they set the stage. They're putting an end to your old life. And there are people in this energy that just see that people are walking away from them. No matter how much they keep clinging, someone keeps putting their head up, looking around, figuring it out, and nothing can stay hidden for too long. I'm proud to know that my mother has a soldier on the ground who can handle the things that are coming her way. And she always tells me, you need strength to pass every test. This is just my job. This is how it works. This is a job of passion. This is something that I have to do. This is just how life goes for me. But it's for all of us. I invite you to look at your battles like mini courses in a universal boot camp. You are being initiated by the universe here. Every day, step by step, trial by trial, failure by failure, tier by tier, you evolve. In order to heal, you gotta unpack all the gunk. You're not the only one. Nobody wants to unpack their unhealed trauma. No one wants it to come back up. Some of these traumas are terrifying. Like, this was seeing somebody else's trauma. This was something I usually try to put like a positive spin on it. There's no, for me, I'm just like, damn, like, I don't want to tell anybody that that was meant to happen or they to learn lessons. I just don't think it's okay. It was just insane. That's how we heal. We unpack that stuff and we look at it, because that stuff is what people are using to manipulate you. That's because when someone understands your trauma, when they understand what happened to you to make you the way that you are, they can stagnate you with that painful memory. They can keep making you re-experience it. They know how to get to you or get through to you. You need to identify who your spirit guides are and open up when they come, when it's time. And I call him John Garcia because that's just how I keep calling him. That's just what comes to my mind. He already works for death and he just doesn't know it. He put an end to my life. And there's been an end to his life, his old life. He didn't put an end to my life by himself. You know, God allowed that to happen, because I kept saying, this is only happening to me because God is allowing it. I was resentful when I was saying it, but that is the truth. That is how it is meant to go. So the passage that came to me today is Numbers chapter 18, verse 20. I'm going to start at verse 20. And the Lord spake unto Aaron, Thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance amongst the children of Israel. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout their generations, that amongst the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as an heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I have said unto them, amongst the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, When ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance, then ye shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. And this your heave offering shall be reckoned unto you as though it were the corn of the threshing floor, and as the fullness of the winepress. Thus ye also shall offer a heave offering unto the Lord your God of all your tithes, which ye receive of the children of Israel, and ye shall give therefore the Lord's heave offering to Aaron the priest. Out of all your gifts ye shall offer every heave offering of the Lord, of all the best thereof, even the hollowed part thereof, out of it. Therefore thou shalt say unto them, When ye have heaved the best thereof from it, then it shall be counted into the Levites as the increase of the threshing floor, and as the increase of the winepress. And ye shall eat it in every place, ye and your households, for it is your reward for your service in the tabernacle of the congregation. And ye shall bear no sin by reason of it, when ye have heaved from it the best of it. And ye shall bear no sin by reason of it, when ye have heaved of it the best of it, neither shall ye pollute the holy things of the children of Israel, lest ye die. Basically, God is saying for generations that there are people who are not going to have any inheritance in a certain land or amongst a certain people. And sometimes I do not always understand the messages, not in the moment that it's given. I'm not gonna lie. All I took of this very quickly as I started was, "Ye shall have no inheritance," and that's what it says. No inheritance for Aaron. We are dealing here with spiritual inheritances. Spiritual inheritances do not always have to do with money. They've been talking about that in the readings for the longest time. It doesn't always have to do with money. But I think there is money here for sure. And sometimes I get it wrong. I really thought that certain people would move forward, with other people, and God is like, no. What is for you is for you and you alone, and you have to move forward and build it yourself. You have to build it yourself so you can eat of it yourself. Don't develop it in the wrong place. And I'm telling you, God will block your work. God will block it making any money until you get yourself out of where you're not supposed to be, and it will be very frustrating. You will not be able to build what you have to build until you get yourself out of what you have to get yourself out of. And I will tell you, I'm no longer at the point with anyone where I need to fight to convince someone, because I realize we don't know God's timing. All we have to do is do what God says and deliver the messages, and it will sink when it needs to sink. I don't defend myself anymore. There was an illusion created here about me and my intentions and all of that, and I totally fell into it, and it is what it is. The voice of God is not like a physical voice. It's inside of you. And believe it or not, people here already have the voice of God speaking to them, and they have for a while. They have for a very long time. This is why these energies keep fighting them down and keep trying to keep them trapped. It's because the work, the spiritual work that they used to do, especially on John, the work that they used to do on him, it's not working. The work Melissa used to do on him to bring him back, I don't know if it's sex work. She definitely binded him for sure, but the sex work and all of that, it's not working anymore. And she blames me. It just is not working anymore. And the whole time I thought this was talking about me, and my ex is talking about him the entire time. And it's taken all this time for me to go back mentally and look at the messages. And one of the messages said, you told somebody, you admitted to somebody something that happened to you when you were young, and they've been using it against you the entire time. They've been using it to manipulate you and bind you and hold you back the entire time. There was another message that said somebody thought that because they had a lot of equity with you, because you guys have been together for a very long time, or when you were young, that they thought you'd never leave. That you just endure the situation the way that you've always endured it. There's a lot of messages. Like if you go back and listen to these messages, to these readings, these old readings, invest your time. And I think he knew way before me that the divine masculine thing was talking about him. He knew way before me. He's not as dumb as he, I'm not saying he's pretending at all to be that way, but he's not as dumb as these people make him out to be. He's not. He knows what he knows in his heart. He feels it. You can't tell someone what to feel. I've said so many times, I used to say, you're not a God, you're not a God every day. But you feel what you have to feel in your heart. You know what you know. Even with all the illusions being casted, I don't know where it came from for me to read I know where it came from for me to read the thing about Seth. I know where all of that came from. And I remember when I read it, I almost stopped. Like there was a part where I almost stopped and my body pushed me to keep going. But if it were up to me alone, I would have stopped reading. And as I was reading, I was like freaking out because I'm like, this is him. Oh my God, this is him. He knows it. Anybody listening knows it. Period. This is him. This is how he behaves. This is who he is. This is him. We can try to follow logic all we want. We can try to say what we want. But I read that passage. That's him. He knows it. He feels it. He knows it. It all made sense. It's like there was a lot of BS in there, but there was a lot of very startling things. And can you imagine if somebody else knows that's you and they just will not let go? Of course they wouldn't let go. Where you meet an energy like that, you're not going to meet anybody like that ever again. When you belong to God and you're here to do God's work, I read one passage and it said, you are my instrument of war. There's just only so long. Like, do people really think that God is just going to allow an instrument of war to be in their hands being manipulated forever? Be very serious right now. Do you think that kind of asset is going to be forfeited to that kind of energy for forever? She's already paying her karma. Be very real. Like, I'm very relaxed in this because I know this is not going to go on forever. It's just God's timing and God's way. That's all. Do you really think that God is going to let a whole instrument of war be in the hands of a moron who's a gold digger for forever? You think God is going to allow that? Let's be very serious. Let us be realistic. This is not my message. This is not what I want to do. If I wanted to be manipulative, if I was like other people, I would have definitely been seductive. I would have done this, I would have done that. There were things that neither one of us could do. And it just is what it is. That's why they had to manipulate the situation as hard as it was, because there were just things that just could not happen in a certain way. So they could say whatever they want. This is not my work. God allowed it to happen because God's not concerned about anything that we're concerned about. God's not worried about the things that, oh my God, I got to prove myself. This is not my thing. I am given enough information to do what it is I have to do. Sometimes it's like, even for example, looking up Seth. Seth was never on my radar to read. It was never, I was going to talk about Ra, I was going to talk about Mayat, I was going to talk about Sekhmet, I was going to skip over to Shiva and Kali and all of that. Seth was just never there. I remember we were all watching a reading. I know he was watching it too. And Jasmine said, "Why are we listening to Seth?" It was like there's always signs, there's always things, there's always connections. Somebody here is going to beat themselves into the ground trying to hold on to something that is not theirs. It is what it is, and she knows that. She's never had that kind of connection. She sees that and she feels that. And it just is what it is. Just two different kinds of energies here. And somebody has to go through their healing journey. They're going to go through it no matter what. God is gonna push you to heal and unpack and do things that you're supposed to do no matter what. It doesn't matter if you think God is manipulative and this and that. It doesn't matter. Your destiny is your destiny, and when it is time, it is time. You have the strength that you have for a reason. You have the mind you have for a reason, and these things are gonna happen because there, like I said before, there are other energies that know this person's waking up. There's just a lot happening here. I came to a point where I'm just like, I'm not gonna fight this this is, how do I even begin to fight? You can't enter someone's mind and fight it. You can just deliver your messages the way that you have to. When God is speaking to you, God wants to speak to you directly, face to face. And it could be through my face, it could be through whatever, but it's like, you listen and it either makes sense to you or it doesn't, because the words that you hear are gonna match your intuition. I get pushed to say certain things and I'm just like, sometimes I relent. I don't want to say it. I'm like, no, I'm holding it back. And then other times I realize like God chose those words for a reason. I don't know why I'm saying those words, but God chose those words for a reason. The healing has to happen one way or the other. And sometimes people keep you in situations that are toxic and unhealthy to hold you, whether it's drug use, whether it's addictions, whether it's porn, whether it's drinking, whatever it is. Somebody who loves you is supposed to tell you like, hey, like you can't work under these conditions. You can't, they're fighting to keep it going and keeping somebody in a cycle that the universe is just breaking apart no matter what anybody says or does. The towers come when they come. We go through whatever we have to go through when we have to go through it. We cannot get around it, and it just is what it is. So that is my message for today. It's a message of destiny swapping. And I remember when that message first came to me, I thought it was a group of people, an organization that destiny swapped, and then now it's like, no, it's the handler, it's the wife, it's her. She's the one that's binded. I used to think when they said she, they were referring to an organization and it was a metaphor, but it's literally a she. It's they kept saying it's wife, and I'm like, it's not. Who's married? Who the hell are they talking about the whole time? So when I think back to every single divine masculine energy message I ever heard, it was not talking about my ex, and that kind of freaks me out, because there were a lot of messages in there that I really thought, now it makes sense. Now it's literal. Now it literally makes sense. Everything makes sense. They would say things like, this woman is a witch, or this person's finding out things, or she doesn't take accountability for how she's broken the marriage and she's pushed him away. She just wants to blame other people and like all of this stuff. And I'm just like, who is this she? What are they talking about? And now I realize what they're talking about. Everybody knows their situation. Like I said, I don't think that anybody here is innocent at all. So I'm not here to paint anybody as innocent. These people did things that are so crazy, they're unforgivable, both of them, all of them. But I just know that when God is calling you, you can fight as hard as you want. You can do whatever you want. You can deny it all you want. You can create illusions. You can push as hard as you want. But when God is calling you, you have no choice but to wake up and do what it is that you have to do. and life is going to throw you in the fire, and you're going to, it's just like me. Life is going to block you so hard that you're going to have no choice, and you're going to be like, okay, God, what do you need from me? So that is my message. It is what it is. Have yourself a great day.